you might know what French sounds like in Paris or even on Netflix.
Emily Cooper?
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
But have you heard it in the sand dunes over here or on the beaches over there? Yes, believe it or not, the French world does not end at the edge of Europe. So here's a little accent challenge to get you scratching your berets. Ready? Let's go.
Un vrai montagnard, c'est quoi?
Ah, c'est un gars de la montagne, normalement. C'est pas ceux de la ville. Et il peut pas s'y habituer. Ils ont rien qu'à faire comme les autres.
Ah oui?
Quand ils viennent par les stations puis qu'ils ont point de pneus, ben ils se démerdent. Hein. Mais ils nous emmerdent, par contre.
What a cool guy. And no, he is not Heidi's granddad, but it's about as close to French mountain talk as you can get. Now, this is an interesting area. It's only been French since 1860. Before that, everyone spoke a different Romance language altogether. They say things like il faut y faire instead of il faut le faire. And it's very common to hear ou bien at the end of questions.
Dieu, l'autre jour quand je passais la panneuse, j'ai vu par la fenêtre un lièvre sur le talus.
The pronunciation is influenced by some pretty old regional dialects. There's an Alpine patois that people speak around here, and of course, this means some interesting words spill over into the local French. But there's more. Long ago, there were a lot of stonemasons living here who invented their own dialects so that no one would steal their trade secrets. And apparently, this even influenced the French.
L'automne, il y a le brame des cerfs, là, début septembre. Après, au mois de novembre, il y a les chamois qui sont en plein rut. Tout est cyclé. Si la nature a des cycles, c'est parce qu'il faut laisser le temps, il faut prendre le temps de laisser faire les choses.
So, what do you think? Does it sound a bit Swiss, maybe a bit Italian, or was that a cowbell? I don't know, but if you ever go hiking in the Alps near the border of Switzerland, listen out for the curious accent of Haute-Savoie.
Parce qu'il y a plein de choses à visiter. D'abord, le zoo. Ouais. Il y a différents animaux qui n'existent pas dans les autres pays.
Il y a un peu de tout. Il y a les lémuriens, il y a les animaux, je veux dire, à la faune et à la flore.
It's the only place on earth where this cute little animal lives, and the way they speak French is also pretty cute. It was once a French colony, but French rule only lasted for about 64 years, so they've had lots and lots of time to make the language their own, which is pretty cool. The people are descendants of ancient Austronesians from Southeast Asia and Bantu migrants from Africa. So everything here is a blend of French and indigenous culture. They prefer their traditional languages, so only about 5 million of them actually speak French. The other 18 million speak something else, and that something else is what makes their accent different.
Beaucoup de choses. Une plage, il y a des lémuriens, il y a toutes sortes de choses.
C'est beaucoup de fruits. Il y a les litchis, les mangues, la vanille, il y a plein de choses comme ça.
Of course, they use words and expressions that you will not hear anywhere else. So what do you think? You're going to add these to your word list? It's the accent of the world's fourth biggest island, one you know very well, Madagascar.
Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Qu'est-ce que t'as dit? Qu'est-ce que c'est ça? Là, fait que là, il veut pas comprendre, là, ok, là? Là, écoute-moi, là, ok, là? Mais là, ben oui. Comprenez-vous, là?
This all sounds a bit mean, but apparently people in this region used to be haunted by a bit of linguistic inferiority complex, because not everyone was cool with their accent. But guess what? This variety is closer to Old French than mainland French. That's right, they just became isolated from France for so long, and they couldn't keep up with Paris. Also, most of the immigrants spoke other languages of France, and when they got here, they picked up words from indigenous people. So if you think it sounds dramatically different, well, it is.
Allô, je m'appelle Gabriel, je viens de la petite ville de Shawinigan. Trouvez-vous que j'ai un accent? Quand je parle, j'en ai-tu un?
One thing's for certain, it is not easy to imitate. The accent is known for its rhythm and strange sounds. Not that French sounds were ever easy to copy. They have some fun expressions. See if you recognize this one, ma blonde. It literally means my blonde, but then to them it means my girlfriend. And I kid you not, they brought this one all the way from the 17th century. Their equivalent of habiendo is attendo, and they like to say things like away instead of aller. But to me, the biggest giveaway is always the vowels.
J'ai vraiment trouvé que ce piment était un petit peu fort. Piment devient piment. La Ferrari parfaite pour la fin du monde.
And if that's not a clue, well, I don't know what is. So what's the accent? It is called Laurentian French, and they speak it in Quebec. Now, things are about to warm up, so you can take off those winter gloves and exercise those fingers a little bit, especially if you don't want to miss my next accent video. It's going to be a good one.
C'est une tomate, me rapporte tomate, mais étant donné pané, je peux rien faire.
Tomates, courgettes et aubergines. Ouais, c'est puis chou paumé aussi un peu, mais plus tomates qu'il n'y en a pas et puis courgettes.
Sur un peu de concombre, mais ça part super vite. La banane jaune, vous voyez, ça vient d'arriver, donc voilà, ça va être compliqué. Mais on fait avec ce qu'on a.
It's a gorgeous island with a crazy history full of cannibals and colonizers, slavery, pirates and wars, and a monster volcano that destroyed an entire town, except for that one guy locked in a prison cell. And then it became French, and now almost everyone speaks French. But the accent stood no chance after leaving France. There were way too many other things going on here. African languages, Caribbean, Indian languages, Spanish, English. Throw French in the pot, and what do you get? You get a Creole, obviously, but you also get a one-of-a-kind French dialect with its own special words and phrases. One thing they often leave out is the R sounds in words. So merci sounds more like merci. No R.
La vache est devenue folle, la poule est devenue folle, toutes les choses sont folles, tu vois. Et les gens, le monde, ils ont intérêt de revenir vers la pureté, vers la sanctification. Parce que si un corps n'est pas sain, l'esprit n'est pas sain.
They can have a lovely way of putting things, like the way they refer to France. The other side of the water, which it is. So, how far across the water are we exactly? Well, when Christopher Columbus stopped by for tea in 1502, the island had 3 different names depending on who he asked. These guys called it Island of Iguanas, and these guys called it Island of Flowers or Island of Women. If you know exactly where this is, I'm very impressed. It's one of the West Indies islands, Martinique.
Oh, fin, c'est-à-dire le oh, on va l'exagérer. Et ça, le fin, ben c'est, on pourrait dire au fond. C'est au fin. Ça veut, on ne sait pas comment, qu'est-ce que ça veut dire, mais on le dit. Et ça, c'est vrai. Je vais te le dire. Mais quoi? On ne sait pas.
Le combo, c'est à un moment donné, je vais te dire. Et tu te débrouilles avec cette information.
Ah, l'accent chantant, the singing accent. It's impossible not to fall in love with this one. It's strong and warm, melodic and rhythmic. People with this accent speak quickly and use a lot of sound effects. And if you want to give someone a hug, you can say viens, que je te quiche. But they say that the old way of speaking is disappearing.
Je t'aime d'une façon que c'est pas possible de le dire. Et tout le temps je te vois, tout le temps je te parle. Quand je mange, ça n'a pas de goût. Le sommeil, ça me l'a tué. Alors si tu me veux pas, ou je meurs ou je deviens fou.
What do you think, guys? They pronounce all of their syllables. It's quite an Italian thing to do. So baguette sounds like baguette. And they add a kind of g sound to nasal vowels. So vin is pronounced more like vang, and pain sounds more like bang.
Quand je la regarde, je suis là, je rentre à la maison, mais je vois une madone devant moi.
That enough clues for you? It is the lovely accent of the oldest city in France, Marseille.
M'apporte son tamis avec lequel elle va sur la plage. Je dis chérie, c'est super adorable. Enfin, je veux dire, si on met le sucre et la poudre d'amande là-dedans, tout va couler. Mais c'est un tamis. Oui, c'est un tamis, mais ce n'est pas le bon tamis. Il fallait un tamis de cuisine. On va aller en acheter un. Alors je dis non, on va pas aller en acheter un maintenant. Là, je suis en train de faire réciter ton frère en néerlandais et je dois faire mes macarons pour vendredi parce que jeudi, je n'aurai pas le temps parce que sur ma liste, ce n'est pas le moment. Donc je dois les faire ce soir.
If you hear people switching between 2 languages here, don't worry. It is normal. They have plenty of languages and dialects. Even their capital city has its own version of French, full of words from other languages. Anything familiar here? They even have their own way of saying, see you soon. But there's one thing a Frenchman would never do. If you want to fit right in, just add the words une fois to the end of everything.
J'ai très envie de manger des moules à la bière une fois.
C'est pas gagné. Hear that? Or you could say, viens une fois ici. It's like saying, come once here in English. It sounds a bit strange, but they borrowed it from a regional language that does the same thing. I mean, even the grammar can look more Dutch than French. That's right, I said Dutch. So where are we?
Mais c'est un gamin pour lequel on a énormément d'affection, quoi. Enfin, c'est quasi une projection, quoi. Un enfant, c'est la seule personne par laquelle un père accepte d'être dépassé, quoi.
Right, that's enough outrageous clues for you. It is, of course, a Belgian French accent. If it was too easy, don't worry, the impossible one is coming.
Cette semaine, je vous embarque avec moi pour de nouvelles aventures avec de nouveaux candidats. C'est parti, suivez-moi.
Well, I don't think the laid-back life gets any better than this, but some of us, never grew up in surfing paradise. In the old days, a dynasty of kings ruled them, and they still love their mythology, tattoos, dancing, and fishing, and any excuse to play in the water is a good one. Of course, one day, French came along, and now French is their only official language, but they still have a very beautiful traditional language that naturally influences their accent, and it sounds super cool.
Parce que tu as de longs cheveux, et j'imagine qu'avec le surf et le soleil, ça doit les abîmer au fur et à mesure.
Oui, un petit secret beauté que ma grand-mère a transmis à ma maman et qui nous a transmis à nous, c'est le lait de coco.
Their French is usually less formal than in France, and you often hear indigenous words. For example, they say nana instead of au revoir, or they'll use an old French word like bicyclette for bike. If you want to recognize it, just learn a few traditional phrases and listen out for rolled R's.
Moi, le conseil que je donnerais tout d'abord lorsqu'on qu'on veut progresser dans la musique, c'est tout d'abord, on parle de tonalité.
I just noticed how fast they speak too, just like their music. Come on guys, you know this. Aha, it is Tahiti, and you're welcome. Get ready to be surprised because this ain't your average French dude.
C'est plus accepté. Moi, je préfère d'être ça que je suis que quelque chose d'autre. La manière que les Mexicains sont traités à cette heure, c'était comme ça pour nos parents. Et à oublier entre les traditions et la langue.
I didn't know there were French cowboys, did you? Well, if you heard the word Mexican in there, that was a clue. French in this place has a strong influence from Spanish, African, and Native American languages, especially these people. Explorers and colonists came here from Europe and Canada, and French was the dominant language for many generations. So you had all these different cultures learning French, and then even more immigrants joined them. Spanish, German, English. Refugees arrived from Haiti. You had Creoles mixing with Creoles, and all these different people ended up here and influenced the French language.
Le plus gros chêne sur le bayou. Il n'y a pas des plus gros que ça. Celui-là, il a peut-être 500-600 années, d'après moi.
The crazy part is, even now, French lives side by side with different versions of Creole, and some people speak both. So how have they managed to keep them separate? I don't know. But maybe the strangest thing of all is the archaic words they have that France last used in Old French. Well, there's no mistaking it. This is Louisiana French.
Quel chien? Les meubles. Je comprends pas, là. Les meubles chez les chiens. Les meubles chez les chiens, mais qu'est-ce que les chiens foutent avec des meubles? Pourquoi donner ces meubles à des chiens? Mais non, les chiens, pour les chiens. Ils ont pas donné à des chiens, ces meubles, il est parti avec.
And just to remind you that France itself does have dramatically different cultures, and there's an accent you will have a tough time with. When you hear it, it sounds like French suddenly changed its tune, and very strong and confusing. Ça va sounds like chava, and just try keeping up with this guy.
Attention, petit piège. Le chat, l'animal, ne se prononce pas chat, mais co. Là encore, un subtil mélange entre k et ko, ce qui donne co. Du coup, une phrase correcte serait par exemple « Mais je parle comme chat, et chat, chez ma co ».
Well, everyone knows it's a hard one to understand, French people included, but I'm cheating a bit because technically it's a dialect of Picard, which is very close to French, but France only recognizes French. So next time you're in the Nord-Pas-de-Calais region, there's a good chance you'll hear people speaking French, but throwing in patois expressions like this one. It's called ch'ti and comes from the World War I era. People used to call each other ch'timi, and I guess it stuck, but be warned, don't go using these expressions in the South. Why? Just don't.
Je parle français, mais je ne pas, monsieur. Selon moi, je parle. Selon moi, parce que moi, je travaille avec les gens. Touristes internationaux. Je parle français et quelquefois avec les gens allemands. Quelquefois, moi, je suis avec les compagnons chinois.
This was going to be quick, so think fast. There are 4 countries where French speakers have this accent, and of course, they're not identical to each other, but they have one big thing in common. See how quickly you can figure it out. There's a significant Berber population in the area, so lots of influence from Arabic and Berber languages. They do speak these other languages a lot of the time, so the thing that pushes French is the media and education systems.
La langue française n'est pas assez bien chez nous, ici.
The accent got a huge dose of Maghrebi Arabic, and you'll hear it in, well, the Maghreb French countries right here. Arabic accents are cool too, but that is a story for another day. And speaking of stories, we're on a mission here to help you learn a new language like French fast. And the magical way we do this is with stories that uncover the world around you. You see, you remember French words more easily when you're engrossed in a story, and the language just makes sense to your brain naturally. I want you to get a glimpse into this fantastic method, so I'm leaving something cool in the description below. It's completely free. It's called the StoryLearning Kit. So when you're done guessing French accents, go grab yours and figure out how to learn French fast with stories.
Je pense que c'est bon dimoun gagne bon quelque chose. Que si on fait des choses bien dans la vie, si on est une bonne personne, en retour, on va vivre des choses positives.
Au lieu de dire maribon, je veux dire extra bon. Je veux dire extra, veut dire enfin, il n'y a pas de limite. C'est trop bon même.
It is a tiny island with volcanoes, waterfalls, beaches, dodos, and pirates. Okay, the dodos and pirates went extinct a long time ago, but anyway, almost everyone speaks at least 3 languages: French, English, and Creole. When they aren't speaking Tamil or Hakka or any of these, and among the palm trees, you won't hear only one French accent.
Mon dialogue créole préféré, c'est continue. Ça veut dire, dans n'importe quelle situation, never give up.
Qui manière correcte en fait. Qui manière, c'est tellement naturel de demander à l'autre comment il va. Et correct, c'est pour dire que voilà, même si ça va pas, mais tout correct quand même.
The locals mostly descend from India, France, China, the UK, and another island that I can't tell you, or you will get it straight away, but it all makes for a very interesting blended culture.
Là, ils vont parler comme ça, ils vont pas rouler les R, ils vont être définitivement plus relax, mais ils vont aussi s'en servir des mots qui sont pas français. Ils vont dire bon après-midi, bon appédélo. Donc c'est un français beaucoup plus relax.
What's fascinating about this island is it had no indigenous people when it was first discovered by Arabs. None. The first people to map it were Portuguese, and the first people to live here were Dutch. So how it ended up Île-de-France is a story I need to investigate, I think. Have you guessed where we are yet? Here we go. It is the delightful French accent of Mauritius. If you know the island, tell us in the comments if you got it.
Papa commençait à chanter, puis le soir après, voyons si tu retiens, puis on retenait, c'était à nous de chanter, et puis manger les châtaignes en même temps. Et puis, mais c'était comme ça. Parce qu'il fallait ramasser toutes les châtaignes de ce temps-là.
I hope his beret doesn't give him away. These beautiful lyrical sounds tell you he's from somewhere in the French southwest, but he has a very specific accent, and it's not from Spanish either. If you know what this means, you might get it. These rural people are French speakers who live very close to Spain, but here's the thing. There's a very ancient culture straddling the France-Spain border. It exists only here, and they speak what's probably the most mysterious language on earth. They're fluent French speakers too, and their accent sounds very pretty and very melodious.
Ils sont plutôt petits, très rustiques, ils vivent beaucoup dans les montagnes d'ici. Par exemple, ici on est au Mandarin et il y a Espelette, Titsassou et Soureille qui mettent leurs chevaux ici. Et donc du coup, ils s'éparpillent partout dans la montagne, chacun garde son emplacement dans la montagne.
We are in the beautiful Basque Mountains. French people living close to the Basque community pick up specific words and sound patterns from them and end up with their own special kind of Basque accent. And if I haven't mentioned your special accent in this video, forgive me, but you probably speak too beautifully. You should look out for it in my other French videos. Meanwhile, I have a feeling you're going to love the next one, which is right over here.